Hello, welcome to Next Step Support. My name is Rory Kavanagh. I'm one of the editors here with Next Step Support. Thanks for joining us here on today's webinar. I'm delighted to welcome James Darley, the founder and CEO of Transform Society, who's joining us kindly here today on Next Step Support. Let's give you a brief introduction to who James is. James is he's the founder and CEO of Transform Society. He's more than 20 years of experience in graduate recruitment, very highly respected figure within the sector, so it's great we have him with us here today. He's involved with almost all of the Transform Society programs. He's also a trustee of Now Teach, and he also sits on the advisory board of the Royal National Children's Springboard Foundation, a charity which gives life transforming opportunities to disadvantaged and vulnerable children. James, thank you so much for joining us here today.
Absolute pleasure. Can't wait.
James, Transform Society is a very interesting model. It's a very unique model. Can you give us a brief example for someone who may not have heard about it before? What exactly do you do, and what's your particular, what is very unique about the programs?
Of course. So it's 5 different programs in 5 different sectors, but fundamentally they are an initial 2-year commitment where you become a front-facing public sector worker, either in policing, teaching, social work, or prisons. Throughout that 2 years, you're paid. You also get professional qualifications. You're part of a movement and a vast network. You also get leadership training and lots of other advantages. But after the 2 years, it's entirely up to you what you do. 2/3 plus usually stay forever, but the others go off and become leaders in other sectors. Our whole theory of change is that if you experience inequity at the grassroots level, at this early stage of your career, it's something you will care about forever. And I have a small dream that if in the future leaders of this country have done one of my programs, then society will be a fairer place, because actually they would have experienced inequity at the grassroots levels.
And you talk about on your website, the Transform Society website, you talk about the overlap between the various challenges within society and obviously the lack of leadership and the necessity for strong leadership within the public sector. That it's so stark, and while it's very easy for us all to focus on the problems. What are some of the solutions that programs like those run by Transform Society can provide?
I mean, just a small little example is Frontline, which is the children's social care, and the Police Now program, policing. The participants came together because children were going missing from care homes. So there was a real problem with young girls, particularly, who were sadly going missing in Croydon. And no one had actually worked together with the police, with the social workers, to work out why this was happening and come up with solutions to fix it. So our participants worked together on a project, identified some of the reasons why they were missing, and then introduced some training and support, and kept walking around to the care home to check that those kids were safe. So it's going that extra mile. All of my programs recruit fantastic practitioners into public service, and there are many routes. So it's not just my routes, but I think we expect a little bit more. We expect you to want to change things for the better and for the future as well.
And working within a structure such as the public service, which can be quite linear and have be a lot of specific stages within it. How do you manage the expectations, I suppose, of the graduates in terms of what they can achieve, while also harnessing their enthusiasm?
So, I mean, in a way, that's what you never want to lose. I think, you never want to lose that passion and drive to change things. And sometimes I think, if you've worked in a sector for 5, 10, 20 years, you can, get ground down. I think the way that we do it is by continuing to offer support and development. So there's a intense 5 or 6 week summer institute training that gets you ready for the program. Then you go in and you're a practitioner. Throughout the 2 years that you're on the official program, there are lots of days when you come back as cohorts to see each other, share stories, share experiences, and get re-inspired. And then afterwards, there are opportunities as alumni also to get supported. So that's the way we do it. We keep you connected and keep you inspired towards the problem that you joined to solve, and not necessarily the profession. It's all about the problem for us.
Okay, and I suppose in like all areas of business, you're obviously been affected by the current situation. How have your programs had to react, and maybe find different ways of doing things due to the pandemic?
So I'll probably answer that in three ways. On the recruitment side, we've had to go virtual. So we turned around virtual assessment centres within about 48 hours. So, it will be a bit alien for some of the students watching this when you have to go to a virtual assessment centre, because, you will be pushed off into little Zoom rooms to go and do an exercise and then come back with a group exercise. But, I promise you it is as fair and as efficient as it always has been. So embrace it. The second way it's changed is our training, because obviously we would get people together for 5 to 6 weeks to train together. And that's going to have to be different this year. And then I think finally we're supporting participants who are actually on the front line now. We have police officers and prison officers, looking after wings on prisons where some of the inmates do have COVID. So, we're having to support our participants, not only through the programme, but through their day job.
So, yeah, as you've just said there, I mean, you do have people who have joined the programme who are now working on the front line in a variety of very challenging situations. And unlike many other areas, you're basically, it is business as usual for people in those sectors. So you're still actively recruiting throughout this pandemic. And in terms, generally speaking, how does the recruitment kind of calendar work for you throughout the different programs?
So I suppose it's not really surprising. Public sector is the area that is going to need, the incredible talent coming into it. So this year we recruited 3,000 across the 5 programs. Next year I'm looking for 3,500 over the 5 programs. So, the public sector does still need good talent. So if there are some sectors that, potentially are going to struggle for a little while due to COVID, one option could be for a lot of you to think about public sector and to think of some of my programs, because it's a fantastic way to come in, give something back, but also gain something yourself.
Very good. Just a side note here, so anyone who's here in the room with us, I can see there are some questions coming through. We have still some time at the end of the interview here with James to address some of the questions, as many as we can. But I've just seen one there, I know I think you answered at the start, is that this is a paid internship. Yes. And correct. Obviously, there's another question about the location. Obviously, these are located throughout the country in various kind of modules, I suppose. Or
yeah, correct. So you're paid from day one because you are a police officer, a teacher, the social work programs, you're a trainee for the first year, but you get a bursary. But fundamentally, yes, you receive payment from day one of the programs throughout the 2-year program. And then after the 2 year, when you come off the official program, you are still employed by that school, by that police force, by that trust foundation or council that's got you as a social worker. So you are a practitioner as if you'd come in through any other route.
And are there age limits for the programs? For example, say the policing program, which obviously, well, if you're joining the police force.
No age limit. The only thing with police now you might want to consider is they have a detectives program. This is specifically for graduates who have got 2 years plus of work experience on top of their degree. So no, there's no age limit. You might want to become a police officer, but equally we're finding a lot of popularity and we've got over 100 positions on the detectives program, which is actually open now.
Okay, as I said, we will get to as many of the questions as we can, but if not, we will provide some answers post-event too. During this time, obviously, there's a great deal of uncertainty for students about their next step, no matter what sector they're going into. From our own research, we found that students are interested in developing their skills during this time. Things like resilience, things like, critical thinking. What would be some of the, say if someone was looking forward to, applying for one of these programs in the coming weeks, months, what sort of soft skills could they be working on that would really, add to their attractiveness within the recruitment process?
So certainly it's very easy to find, all the competencies and strengths, attributes. They all use different terms and different systems, my 5. You can find it all on their website, so do have a look. But holistically, there are things like leadership, things like relationship building of some sort, humility, respect and empathy. You are going to have to work with people that are, sometimes very different from yourself, and we need to make sure that, you're able to cope with that. Motivation and passion for the cause. We're very mission-led. Charity is all of my 5, so we very much need you to care about the issue that we care about. And in terms of how you build them, I mean, this is what is going to be very, very difficult, because the internship market and work experience market, the bottom has come out of it, and all of these programs have either been disbanded or they're going virtual. All I would say is you still need to worry about these competencies and skills that the employers are looking for, because that's what their selection process will be built around, whether that's gamification in the first instance or online tests that you have to do to get to the assessment centre. So my first bit of advice is make sure you understand what competencies are being looked for by the employer that you are most interested in. Have an honest look at yourself and think about whether you're any good, and do yourself a little ranking on a 1 to 10. 1 would be utterly dreadful, 10 would be there's no one better than you in the world, and if you all put down 10, then you're lying. And then start to think about how you might be able to develop in some of the areas that you're not good at. And even during COVID, there are opportunities to help in the local community, to volunteer, to support, to innovate locally. I mean, of course, stay safe. But the reality is, the graduate job market, particularly in the SMEs, small, medium-sized employers, is going to be tight for a while, because a lot of companies, as you know, have closed and have furloughed staff, and until they actually open their doors again and start becoming profitable, they won't hire. So I know it's going to be a tough time. I think my key advice is don't panic. It will recover. I'm old. I've been through 3 of these kind of recessions before in my time, and it does bounce back. All I can't tell you now is how long. We were able to predict before roughly how long it would take to get everything back. We can't predict how long it's going to take. So just keep an eye on sectors. And if there are opportunities to work locally, but keeping safe, then I would encourage you to do that to build your skills.
And, with the whole focus of the Transform Society programs being on leadership and developing leadership, that can be quite a nebulous concept for students and graduates. I mean, they may want to be in a management or leadership position, be it in the public sector or elsewhere, but the path of getting there can seem very long, very daunting, and quite uncertain. What are some of the supports that the Transform Society programs put in place to develop leadership, or develop a person's belief that they can be a leader from the start?
Well, I personally believe everyone can be a leader if you're given the opportunity, and you're doing something that you love doing, and there's kind of that head and heart perfect combination, then I believe anyone can. But to practically, to kind of answer your questions, the recruitment process is looking for those that believe that they can have a personal impact, but also will drive change in that sector forever, regardless of whether they stay or not. So we believe we need to have leaders in all fields that care about these social issues. So we do need investment bankers and politicians and heads of industry, as well as chief superintendents and chief social workers and head teachers, because you've got to have all areas of our complicated society caring about the issue to make a difference. And practically through the 6, 5 and 6 week training that you get at the start, there are lots of sessions that will identify the root causes of problems and get you to be discussing them. And I know there have been some questions about some of the race relations in America, and maybe we can come to that and extra things that we do there, because it's appalling what's going on there, and we need to make sure we bring people into public service that think and act and behave completely different to what we've possibly seen before, so that these sorts of things don't happen here and don't happen globally again. But throughout the program, there are sessions, and also when you become an alumni, there are still opportunities to come back together to be re-inspired towards the cause, because we believe if you become very passionate about the cause, educational inequity, safer communities, rehabilitation after prison, whatever the different cause will be of my 5 members, that is the thing that will last with you forever, and will spark you to continue to care.
And that's a very good way to just segue into the next question, I suppose. The whole issue of how these 5 different programs link together in terms of professional networks. So education, social care, mental health, policing, the prison service. You talked about how important it is that they all have connections, both professionally and socially. Could you just give us some examples of how that works?
Absolutely. So each of my 5 have their own kind of alumni departments and teams that support the alumni and participants, as we call them, of those that are on the program and finish the program. What I'm doing with Transform Society is actually educating all of them to realize that they're part of a bigger network. So when they do want to connect with a local head teacher or a local chief social worker or a governor of a prisoner, because as we all know with all of this, so many of the most vulnerable are involved with so many of these different areas of the public sector. They may be suffering from mental health difficulties, they may be in care, they may be truant from school. So by inspiring participants not only to come onto the individual programs, but realize they're part of a bigger network, for me, is incredibly powerful, and it's starting to prove to be so.
Okay, and how can students find out more about this in terms of their, the definite next steps they need to take in order to qualify for the program, apply for the program, etc.?
Absolutely. So the central place to go and have a look is at the Transform Society website. So if you Google that, each of the 5 programs get equal billing, and it explains what they are, what they do, and gives you links to the organisation. Equally, you can go direct. So if you know actually teaching is for you, then go and have a look at Teach First. If policing is right for you, then Police Now, Children's Social Care Frontline. So either look at the individual sites, or there is I've tried to deliver a simple central signposting site with Transform Society. Okay,
and you've just kind of highlighted there as well. You are, like, the very strength of this program is the breadth of people that you attract to it. So you're teaching graduates, but they may want to segue into, either
they chop and change between them.
Exactly, which is great. So, and I'm going to go through some questions now. But this is for. There's no background that you don't want people from in terms of having a strong education and having, strong, skills which will lend themselves to any sort of area of business planning.
No, I mean, pretty much all degree disciplines are very, very much welcome. It comes down to those competencies of each of my 5, which you can look up and read the definition to make sure you're okay. So, no, you do need the right to work in the UK for the 2 years of the programme. So, I'm afraid for some international students with visa difficulties, we can't, I'm very sorry, help you. But I also do help an organisation called Teach for All, and there are 54 countries around the world that have a programme. So if you are an international student and you're interested in these programmes, there are versions all over the place.
And obviously we have received questions. Probably our most popular question was in relation to for international students,
right,
that are they eligible? So they have to obviously have eligibility for 2 years.
They do, I'm afraid.
And obviously the universities hopefully can help them with clarity, and obviously help if they can maybe secure that. I'll just go through some of the other questions, James.
Of course.
Okay with you, just so we can provide as much direct help to people as possible. So there are questions here where you're based. You're obviously based nationwide. Are there any roles that are regional specifics, for example, ones in Scotland or Wales or different areas?
So sadly, they are all England-based at the moment. There's a small amount of work that Teach First do in Wales, so there are small numbers of opportunities there. But sadly, we need to be invited, by countries to come in. So we haven't yet been able to crack Scotland, even though I'm very passionate that we do at some point.
We have questions here from law graduates and business graduates saying, are you looking for people like us, and which program would be best for us?
I definitely
that you would like them to be making, obviously.
I definitely can't answer that, because you've got to, which one really gets you going? Is it about rehabilitating adults? Then I would say then it's unlocked. Is it about helping vulnerable children? Then it's possibly frontline. If it's helping those from low socioeconomic background, then it would be Teach First. I would be encouraging you. Your background and your degree background is not irrelevant, because it's fantastic and we're going to utilize it, but we don't mind. It's more about which one, from a passion point of view, really gets you excited. And of course, you can apply to 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5 of them. It's absolutely fine to apply independently, as you do, to any or all of them.
And obviously, like we would say when we're talking to students about applying for any job, tailor your application specific to.
Exactly.
Don't use the same application for all 5. Obviously, highlight different competencies and strengths that you believe.
Yeah, because they've all got a totally different stakeholder. If you imagine, teaching to policing to prisons, if you just cut and pasted it would be quite comical.
Yeah. And are they full time? I mean, with the internships.
Yes.
So it's
so I wouldn't really call them internships. They're called programs. They are. We ask for a 2-year commitment.
Okay.
Because we do place you in a school, or place you in a prison, or place you in a police force, and that force or employer is expecting you for that full 2-year period.
Okay. And we have a question here, which is again a very current one. Brexit, I suppose. EU students, can they apply for the programs? Is there any caveats or concerns?
Well, as of today, it's absolutely fine. I don't think any of us know what on earth is going to happen. Isn't it supposed to be by the end of June? I can't wait. So I think just keep an eye on regulations and what government are doing. But as of today, you're fine. None of us know what's going to happen post Brexit when Brexit happens.
And during the programs, I mean, if someone is very interested in policing, obviously you're interested in that because you want to interface with the public. Same with teaching, same with all 5 of these. How long is it? And there may not be a definite answer before you're actually. We're not expecting, obviously to be interfacing with the public straight away. But what is the lead-in period, and what sort of mentorship and support do you get?
So you do go straight in. So after the 6 weeks or 5 weeks, you are then an actual teacher, actual police officer, having gone through all of the training and support that other routes take you. It's a very intense 5 to 6 weeks. And then there's an additional training and kind of educational support throughout the 2 years. But on all of the programs, you also get a kind of mentor. It varies by program, but you'll get someone that looks after you specifically. And usually you have kind of one person that looks after 12 to 15 of the grads, who's there on call 24/7 to kind of answer any questions. But you are supported by us as a charity, and you're also supported by the organisation that has employed you, a prison, a school, a police force, whatever it may be. So you're kind of getting, double, if not triple, kind of the support that you do from some other routes. Okay,
and you've highlighted earlier on in our session that there are no age limits on this. What is the scope of this? Could you give us some examples maybe of people from from higher age limits and what they're now currently doing?
So very roughly, about 3 or 4 of my programs, half are fresh from university, half are not. But we have examples of practitioners and professionals that have been working for 10, 15, 20 years that have now come to us. But I say there is also Now Teach. So if there is anyone here that has got extensive work experience and wants to move into challenging schools, I would argue Now Teach might be a better program for you. But with all of this, you need to investigate all the different options. I represent 5 programs that bring in public sector workers. All of those sectors have many other ways in, and they're all brilliant ways in. Mine is a particular way in that requires a kind of an extra passion for the mission, and also a different way of recruiting you and supporting you and potentially placing you, because we quite often put you where there is the greatest need, not necessarily where you might choose first, if that makes sense.
Okay, we do have some very specific questions here in terms of how much students will get paid and things like that. But again, we'll refer them to the Transform Society site. Can they find it sort of?
Yeah. I mean, it's very roughly between 20 and 30K. So kind of policing and prisons are at the top end of that. So the Unlocked and Police Now program are the upper, are around 30. Teach First is slightly lower, but it does depend kind of what part of the country you're in, and that's over 22. And then with the 2 social work programs, you're on a bursary in the first year, which is around 25, and then you are fully qualified in your second year.
And just to bring our session towards a close, I mean, aside from all the challenges facing society at the moment in the wake of the pandemic, and that there is a lot of goodwill towards public services at the moment. Obviously, the NHS, paramedics, social care workers, the work that they're doing on a daily basis. That this is also a good time to harness that enthusiasm amongst graduates for these programs. You mentioned earlier on, things like the lack of trust or the questioning that people may have over some other sectors, such as perhaps law enforcement, and how important it is that we inculcate, I suppose, a belief that you can lead and drive real change. And I suppose that's really at the heart of what you're trying to do with Transform Society.
Utterly. I want to inspire a generation towards public service. I mean, I'm sure you all know, listening here, that you're coming into a portfolio career world. Certain professions, yes, you stay forever, like doctors and stuff like that. But on the whole, most of you are going to have a portfolio career world, and they say you'll have 13 different careers in your life. What I'm trying to say is public sector should be one of those experiences, because it allows you to not only give back to the most vulnerable in our society. And COVID, if it's done anything good, I hope it has made us all realise that a lot of us are very lucky and a lot of us aren't. And it's about time that we did something about that and made it a bit fairer. So to spend one of your opportunities, one of your careers in public service, it opens doors. The transferable skills you build as a police officer, as a prison officer, as a social worker, as a teacher are incredible. And I have seen tens of thousands of my alumni go on into all sectors and be phenomenal kind of middle leaders, which they are starting to be now.
Okay, James, I think that's a great way to bring this to a close. We have a lot of questions here. I know that I'm just going to we're going to respond to some of them afterwards with links and with some FAQs that we are able to access from your website. James Darley, thank you so much for joining us here.
Absolute pleasure. Take care, everyone, and keep safe.
All the best. Bye bye.